there, prospective students. It's great to be with you for Discovery Days. My name is Dr. Robert Thomson, and I teach in the Department of Sociology at UAH. And I'm here today to give you a snapshot of one of the courses I love to teach, which is Introduction to Criminology. I like to say that criminology is the study of the making of laws, the breaking of laws, and society's reaction to the breaking of laws. And to show you a little bit about what that is like, I'd like to ask you a question, and it has to do with shoplifting, which is the theft of merchandise from a store. Some estimates say that the total losses for shoplifting amount to in excess of $30 billion per year in the United States, which is more than all robberies, burglaries, and motor vehicle thefts combined. So shoplifting can be hard to catch. So some people find that it is an easy way to get things without paying for them. My question then is, why don't most people shoplift? Let's just pause here for a moment, and I'll let you think about that. Maybe write something down, and we'll see how well your answer fits criminological theory, okay? Do you have something yet? Okay, good. Now, obviously, I have no idea what you said, but I imagine you might have said something like this. People fear consequences. You don't want to get arrested, but even more than that, maybe you're afraid your parents would get really mad. Maybe you're afraid your friends would judge you, or you'll get kicked off of a sports team. Maybe you're afraid you will lose your job, or you won't get into college. So you fear consequences. You have too much to lose. Maybe you said it's because people generally learn to restrain their impulses, right? Your parents raised you not to do something like that. Even though you really want that stuff, you are raised to have more self-control. And maybe you said that you don't know why most people don't do it, but you don't do it because shoplifting is against your religion, that stealing is a sin, and you're afraid of divine punishment. All of these are, very good answers to the question about why most people don't shoplift. But now I want to ask the question in a different way, because the reality is that most people pay for the items that they want from a store. Only a small fraction engage in frequent shoplifting. So why do some people engage in shoplifting? I'm going to pause again. Let you think about that. What do you think? Okay, do you have something? Let's see if I can read your mind again. Maybe you said that some people engage in shoplifting because they are in need. Most people don't want to cheat, lie, or steal, but some people, because of their circumstances, are faced with choices that many of us don't have to make. You can't afford the loaf of bread, but you or your child is hungry, and if you don't shoplift, you're going to starve. Or maybe it's because some people grow up in neighborhoods where they don't have a lot of opportunities, but you interact with people who have iPhones and you just want to fit in. Or maybe you just have a thrill-seeking personality, but you can't afford to go bungee jumping, or you don't have the opportunity to do that. So if you said any of these, again, great answers. But let's take a closer look at the questions. Why don't most people shoplift versus why do some people shoplift? Both of these questions seek to explain the same social behavior, right? Both of these questions are trying to find the explanation for shoplifting, but they approach the question from opposite directions. In fact, if you dig deep enough, you will discover that each of these questions make opposite assumptions about human nature. The question, why don't most people shoplift, assumes that shoplifting would be perfectly natural. People are generally self-interested and self-serving, and we only resist shoplifting because something is holding us back. But the question about why some people do shoplift assumes the opposite. This question assumes that people naturally don't want to shoplift. We only engage in that behavior because of some perceived need that cannot otherwise be fulfilled, right? People are generally good, and shoplifting is like a last result. Let's think about it this way. Here's a pie chart. I made it up, so don't take it too literally. But you see here sort of the population of the all Americans divided into two groups, the majority who does not shoplift and the minority of people who do. Now, when we think about human behavior and we try to come up with a theory that explains it, we have to make an assumption about what we think is normal. And that assumption guides the questions we need to ask to explain the reality that we observe. So, for example, if you assume that it is not normal that people break the law, that means you think most people are behaving as expected. The question you have to ask is, why do some people commit crime? We will look for explanations about the minority of people, the smaller slice. And we will find explanations like, well, they have extenuating circumstances related to poverty or personal tragedy or other kinds of negative life events. But if you assume that people are all really selfish in their core and committing crime is sort of a natural expression of our animal nature, then what you need to explain is how we as a species have been able to control our deepest instincts. Why don't most people commit crime? And we will find explanations like, well, most people have too much to lose, or our social behavior has evolved in such a way to promote cooperation rather than competition. But the point is that all theories of social behavior, including social theories of crime, have to make certain assumptions that can't necessarily be tested or confirmed, at least not with the tools of the discipline. Which is why fields like criminology have developed a vast array of micro-level theories to explain social behaviors like crime and deviance. And just in case you're not familiar with this phraseology, when I say micro-level in this context, I'm not talking about atoms and particles. In social science, we refer to the study of differences between individuals as micro-level, whereas when we are studying the differences between places like states or countries, that's what we call macro-level. So back to my point here, in Introduction to Criminology, we study three main families of micro-level theories of crime, each of which is based on fundamentally different assumptions about human nature. The first family of crime theory is called strain theories, which we sometimes call anomie theories. And anomie is sort of a fancy word for the state of normlessness. If you drill down deep enough, it is apparent that this group of theories assumes that humans are essentially good. And I put good in quotes because I don't mean it in an absolute sense, but rather that they just prefer to conform. In other words, people are rule followers. They want to fit in with the group. They don't want to stand out. In a fundamental sense, humans mostly don't want to be deviant or criminal. So what this perspective forces you to explain is why some people do commit crime and deviance. Most people pay for the items they want in the store, but some people engage in shoplifting. If we all, in our deepest being, want to conform, why don't all of us act that way? And so to answer this question, strain theories tend to focus on environment and circumstances. Some have theorized that people commit crime when there is a mismatch between culturally acceptable goals like graduating college or getting a job and the institutionalized means to achieve them, getting good grades and getting accepted. Others argue that people commit crime when they experience strain in their life, which might include like failure to achieve goals or the removal of a positive stimulus or the experience of a negative stimulus. Still others point to the experience of poverty, broken homes, poor grades, negative life experiences. The implication here is that we all could be criminals if our circumstances were different. And this has an important implication for the solutions to crime. If people want to be good, but feel pressured to commit crime, the solution to crime might be found in policies aimed at improving environments and circumstances, putting public money into improving schools or reducing poverty. In other words, getting rid of the felt need that some people have for committing crime. But there's another school of thought in criminology that says humans are naturally bad. We call these social control theories. And again, try not to think of this in an absolute or normative sense, right? That humans are inherently and mostly self-interested. In fact, the economic philosophy of capitalism assumes this to be true. According to control theories, strain and learning theories care too much about motivation. In fact, we all have motivation to commit crime because crime can benefit us personally. And this assumption also changes the way we ask questions about crime. The question of interest here is not why do some people commit crime, because everyone is self-interested. The question is why don't most people commit crime? In other words, it's from a control theory perspective that you might say that shoplifting is an easy way to get things without paying for them. So why then don't most people shoplift? Which means that control theories are not actually crime causation theories, but rather they are theories of conformity. And they focus on strategies for regulating human behavior. So the solution to crime is found by asking, how do we get people to fall in line? And it is from this perspective where the answers might be that we need to be tough on crime. We need to raise the cost of committing crime by instituting harsher penalties, make it more certain that the shoplifter gets caught by hiring more security. We need to pressure people into obedience. And then you have some theories that do their best not to make any assumption about the natural conformity or deviance of human beings. This third family of theories we call learning theories, and they tend to suggest that all behavior is learned. Obeying the law is learned, but also breaking the law is learned. And we learn these behaviors from other people in our social networks, right? From our family, from our friends, from teachers, from mentors. Whether we break the law or not depends on the influence of other people. But that's going to be a lesson for another day. So with all that in mind, I'll just wrap up by summarizing that all theories of social behavior make assumptions. That assumptions cannot always be readily tested, which means that the various theories can arise making opposite assumptions, and that the assumptions we make shape the questions we ask, and the questions we ask determine the answers we find, and the answers we find shape the kinds of solutions to problems we propose. And as we will discover in Introduction to Criminology, if you take this course, social scientists have various ways for using data and the scientific method for testing various theories. I hope you find this interesting. I hope I have sparked sufficient levels of curiosity to inspire you to continue learning. Best of luck to you in your future endeavors, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye for now.